My story today is a shout out to a Republican member of the Senate who I totally agree with and support. And this comes out of Marijuana Moment from the 19th. Kyle Yeager put this out, and the headline is GOP Senator says marijuana banking and rescheduling are half-assed measures, arguing cannabis should be legally regulated like alcohol and tobacco. This is Senator Tom Tillis from North Carolina. And I'd be willing to bet that he and I have some policy differences on other things. But when it comes to being a pragmatist and a realist, what he recognizes is we call it the trap. You know, he calls it something else, a little more softer language. But he recognizes that there is a well-established black market in cannabis in the United States. And if you don't recognize that, you have rectal myopia. There's the first starting point. And that we're in a position right now where, for political reasons, people are taking little baby steps in all sorts of different directions. None of it's coordinated. None of it is really intended to fix the problem. It's all for political posturing. So he calls efforts like safe banking or let's see. They want to do rescheduling, okay? These are all half-baked, half-assed measures to try and address a problem that if you go to 30,000 feet and look at it and look at how we handle what we might call other vice products, and these are basically alcohol and tobacco, and the federal government got burned heavily with alcohol prohibition and figured out, look, if you can't fix this with laws, all right, you need to figure out how you work with the people who want to use these substances. So they took alcohol out of a prohibited status and put it into a new federal agency. Now, there's a whole lot of discussions about federal bureaucracies and blah, 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 blah. But in my view, cannabis should never, ever have been put into the Controlled Substances Act, full stop. And when it was put there for political reasons, you know, motivated by things that today we would not tolerate. But once it got there, no one wanted to take it out. So there were incremental things done around it. Finally, in 96, these hippies in California said, you know, fuck you, basically. You're not going to be allowed to prosecute us anymore. And the federal government shit themselves. And we're still in that situation. Joe Biden offering to give, you know, if you have a conviction for possession, we'll give you a pardon. You know, stop it. That doesn't even bring up the real problem, let alone address it. So I want to give Tillis props for looking people in the eye and say, we have real problems here. Let's be pragmatic. Stop pussyfooting around this. Take this plant out of the Controlled Substances Act, put it someplace where it's treated similar to alcohol and tobacco. Get the federal government as much out of it as you can. Collect some taxes, have very rudimentary rules. You know, give interstate commerce licenses to distributors, and then let the states handle how they want to handle this, okay? So I want to give Tillis props for that. I hope he can rally other like-minded people from both parties to stop listening to the bullshit from bureaucrats who are trying to protect their own positions and look to the American people and stop war on marijuana, because in that war, marijuana won hands down. Okay, let's stop all this shit and let's be pragmatic and realistic about this. That's my tirade for the morning. I'm going to throw this back at you. What do you all think?
Man, I mean, go ahead, Rico.
Yeah, man. It's all been half-assed. Y'all were looking at me, you, and I'm calling you out, Jason, and Gretchen.
Calling me out for what?
Looking at me when I was pushing back on all these half-assed bullshit proposals and everything. Like, you want to do something that needs to be bold, or there's be a bunch of kicking the can down the road like it always has been. And what have we gotten ourselves into over the last few years? A bunch of kicking down the road, half-assed measures. And where are we now? Purgatory still.
We are not in purgatory. Stop the
put
cap.
that out.
Stop the cap, bro. Stop.
Who thought there was going to be progress?
That's how democracy works.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Rico, you don't know how democracy works. Like, nah, if y'all don't go fucking hard, like, it ain't shit gonna get done. Why is safe banking never pass?
Well, and it's because we have listen, we need to be paying qualified lobbyists, registered lobbyists, actual fucking lobbyists who actually have the ear of these lawmakers, as opposed to people who are just trying to get your cash for a free trip to fucking DC on Friday night. But that's just my 2 cents about it.
No one goes to DC on Friday nights. They all exit Friday nights. They go to DC on Mondays. Monday
Whenever
mornings.
you're trying to go for free, bud.
Just saying.
But I think that it's really important to acknowledge that we as an industry have done a really bad job of, looking at the shiny lights and believing what people say instead of looking at what they do and what they've actually done. So I don't care if you've gotten something passed. Has it been helpful? Has it been progress? Because if not, then please kindly sit down and let somebody who's good at it do.
Oh yeah, and a big shout out to a few people in the audience making this announcement. I just checked it and it checks out on CNBC has announced.
I'm gonna cover this tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay, Trump Attorney General pick Matt Gaetz says that he is withdrawing from the consideration.
I'm gonna get this lowdown for you guys and have a full breakdown on this tomorrow.
Save himself from embarrassment.
No, not really. He's not. There was no way. There's no possible way that he was going to get embarrassed in that. But I'll tell you what. Who's the next picks is going to be Senator Mike Lee, my buddy out of Utah, or it's going to be my other buddy, former AG Matthew Whitaker.
Which is cool, but
anybody
I did a little
would be a better
research
pick than
into
somebody
it,
without a weirdo case, man. Without a case like that, like this is a poor choice to put him up. Put him up in somewhere else in a different location. I guess if that's your homeboy,
I don't know, Matt. I'm riding with Matt. Matt is the most talented person in Congress.
Bad pick from the jump, man. That was a bad.
Rico, you want me to say this? Wasn't. Jason doesn't, so you might want to let me say it, Rico. Because I was doing a little bit of digging into it, too. And it seems like a hacker might have gotten his disciplinary file from that hearing and from the processes that were going on and was leaking that. So that is an interesting timing, just like the wedding was an interesting time. But, hey, listen, I wish the best for everyone.
Anyways, we got a super chat. We got a super chat from the Cole memo. We got a super chat from the Cole memo. It says, Gaetz mistook the meaning of recess appointment. That's funny. That's funny. That's funny.
Hey, shout out to the hacker for having the balls that Republicans in Congress did not.
Well, we know it wasn't Seth Rich.
It's a anonymous hacker.
That's what I'm saying. We know it wasn't Seth Rich.
Well, this isn't the first time that there's been a nomination for AG that people kind of went, what? I mean, I don't, people in my party don't like me to bring this up, but when Bobby Kennedy was nominated for AG in 1961, it's like, this guy's never fucking practiced law. He's there because he's your brother. And he and Johnson vehemently hated each other for all sorts of reasons. And it was very controversial, but he got to be AG. So, I'm a historian. I look at this and go, yeah, he may be the grenade thrower, the turd in your punch bowl, but it ain't the first time this kind of thing has happened. And if anybody thinks you can have privacy in this age, if that report from the House committee was anywhere in electronic form, someone was going to hack it and release it. So there's no such thing as privacy anymore. Just stop it.
Hey, Jason, how do these two potential picks that you just named, where are their stances on cannabis? Well,
Mike Lee is a champion as far as I'm fine with him being the attorney general. He would be fantastic. He's a firm constitutionalist, and he's good on cannabis as well. And even Matthew Whitaker is another buddy of mine, and he's already has been the AG, and he would be fine with cannabis as well. I'm not sure that we would get as far with Matthew Whitaker as we would have with Matt Gaetz, because Matt Gaetz had cannabis as his number 3 agenda item for once he became attorney general, and I don't think it's that high up on the list for Matthew Whitaker. But Mike Lee, I think would probably be the best pick that the cannabis industry could hope for at this stage in the game.
I think it's going to be Judge Janine.
It's not. She's not. Her name's not even in the running
yet.
It'll end up being probably Senator Mike Lee out of Utah, because that just makes sense. You know what I mean? You have a Republican governor.
Maybe Judge Joe Brown will come in.
It's not going to be any of these wackadoodle name picks that you're pulling out of your ass, Rico.
How about that?
It's not going to be any of these wackadoodles.
Just remember, Jason, that the numbers in the Senate are too close. So are we going to have more senators give up their spot? And well, that's the whole thing, is it's not really a senator giving up his spot, because you have a Republican governor, and so it's going to be another Republican that gets appointed into that space. So it's not really giving up that spot.
Utah is a safe state for Republicans, and so Mike Lee is the most natural next choice.